Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about how much devs should play. This is kind of a continuation of a video I made a month ago, almost a year ago, called Playing Games, and I'll link it below. But it's me answering a question from viewer Amir Hussein Magsoudi 388, who asked, what is your opinion on keeping a clean palette? As in, you're working on something, don't look at what other people are doing. If you do look at what other people are doing, it might narrow your creativity. If you do look at what they're doing, you may learn things you never come up with. I guess this also goes for playing a game blind. Guess what? It also goes for working on a PhD thesis, because the advice I got from my thesis advisor in the early 90s was to look at enough other work to get a good foundation, but you don't have to look at all the work that's been done, because just because somebody did work in an area doesn't mean they did the right work. So his advice was understand what's been done, but don't worry about going in the same direction as someone else, because you're going to uncover different things. And I liked that answer, because this is kind of a big question. It applies to a lot more than just should a game dev play a lot of games or not, or should they play games while they're making, and I will get into all that. Overall, if you watch that Playing Games vid, you know what I said was, if you play too little games as a developer, you won't be able to see what gamers like or dislike. You won't be able to see where the trends are, even if you don't want to follow them. And also, and probably most importantly, is you don't see some pitfalls. Like, you may have thought that some feature was awesome. And you're like, I had this great idea for a feature. And then you mention it and somebody goes, oh, this game does that. And you play that game and you're like, oh, I don't really like how that feature works once it's implemented. Now, maybe you have an idea of how to avoid it, but already that was a great thing because you saw a pitfall. And you're like, I'm going to avoid that. If you can't think of something, then do another feature. But at least you didn't waste a lot of time on it. The flip side, though, is true. If you play too much, you can just get overwhelmed. So much stuff comes out every year. See the Steam video that I did, where this year in 2025, I think we're on schedule to have 25,000 new games in a year. When you start to play too many games, your ideas feel commonplace. Like, oh, everybody's already done this, or somebody else already thought of this. I'm not even going to try doing it. And then you lose your will to even try. And or worse, the flip side happens, and you see a lot of trends, and you're like, well, I guess everybody likes this, and then you slavishly follow those trends. All of those are bad. Not doing something because people have done it, or only doing something because people have done it. And both of those come from playing too many games, and you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed now. I also did a video, which factors in here, ironically enough. It's called a Zen Cone short. I'll link it below. Where, in trying to describe what's too little or too much, there's a Zen Cone about when does day end and night begin, because it's not right when the sun sets because it's still light out. And then I did a Zen Cone, I'll link it below, about the Fiend Folio, me being stupid and funny. Those sometimes aren't mutually exclusive. I also did a video about understanding someone else's POV, and I think that's a great reason to play other games, is you can see, even if it's a game, you would never make a game like that, and it's not in the style you would do, and you don't agree with all the choices they made, it's good to play it anyway to see why they did what they did. So watch that video as well. So anyway, in the 80s and 90s, I played almost every computer RPG that ever came out. And that you could do that back then, because at most one came out a month, and that was like in a good year. Even when I didn't play every computer RPG starting in the 90s, I watched friends and coworkers play them. I have a video on Interplay After Hours where we would all get together one night a week and play games, and people were often talking about some game they played. Sometimes they'd show us, hey, I just did this in Betrayal at Krondor, let me show you. Because I remember that. I didn't play that game, but I watched someone play it who absolutely adored it. These days, though, starting in the early 2000s, I think it became impossible to play every game in a genre. It's now even impossible to play every game in subgenres. There's just too many things coming out. However, by the late 90s, early 2000s, I had a POV. I had a point of view. I had my lens. I knew what I wanted in my games. I had played enough games. I had made some games. I knew what I wanted to do. So in general, here's what I do now when I'm making a game. So I have an idea, or I pull one of the ideas out of my idea book, which is quite lengthy and multi-volume now. And if I decide this is an idea I'm going to run with, I look to see what's been done. Because maybe a game has come out since I had that idea. I check game sites. I look at game reviews. If a game comes out that's really close to my idea, I will play it. Because I want to see, wow, this is the setting I was thinking of and has some of the mechanics I was thinking of. I need to play this and see what I think. If it's just kind of similar, I'll watch videos of people playing. I may ask some friends if they played it. Steam is really good at that because you can go to the game, you can see which of your friends bought it. I'm always surprised when I contact some of these friends, I'm like, oh yeah, I bought that. I never played it. I never even installed it. I'm like, okay. Once we begin production, though, of a game, like once I'm being paid to make a game, my active game playing falls off. Sometimes to zero, but usually very, very low. And for two different reasons. One, I simply don't have the time. I have talked about I get really passionate when I'm not at work playing, making or playing the game. I'm home thinking about it. But also, I don't want to get wrapped up in some other game. I don't want to get pulled into some trend that may not be appropriate for the game I'm making, but I see how cool it is and how popular it is, and I may want to, smash it into my game, even though my game totally does not deserve it. That feature does not belong in my game. Also, the gaming industry more and more every year gets involved in controversies where this is the latest outrage of the week. And whenever those happen, I wonder, is this something here to stay? Do people really not like this feature now? Or is this what they just not like right now? And next year, everyone's going to go, I don't remember saying anything about that. So I don't want to get involved in that. I want to just make the game that was the idea I already had. I've already played a ton of games, seen what people are doing. Once I start making the game, I tend not to play a lot of other games. By the way, now that I'm semi-retired, I play games all the time. I think it's funny when people on the channel go, I don't think you're a gamer anymore, because I probably play more games in a week than most of you play in a month. And I probably play more games in a day than some of you play in a week. More hours, I should say, because I got a lot of time and I live in an area that's dark and cold and wet. So I play a lot of games. Now, I have had it while I'm making a game. Another game developer, sometimes on my team, will turn to me incredulously and go, I can't believe you haven't played Game X, where Game X is something that came out while we were making the game. And I usually just look at them and go, yeah, I'm a little busy here making this game. And also, I usually ask them back, have you played every game? Have you played this one and this one and this one and this one? And usually they like, well, no, I haven't played all of them. I'm like, yeah, and you don't need to. Once you've kind of, you've got a approved design document, you've got a team assembled, you don't want to just keep changing direction every other week because you happen to play a new game. So I think it's okay if you minimize your game playing while you're making a game. And also, this just isn't true for design. This is true for art and code. I can't say a lot for art, but I can tell you that if you pay too little attention to what's going on, it's a problem. And if you try to slavishly follow everything that's going on, it's a problem. Too little, you miss what people are liking and disliking. Too much, you get sucked into trends and controversies. For programmers, I see them make this mistake all the time. I've literally worked with a programmer who was like, I'm just going to allocate memory when I need it. Exactly what I need, allocate the exact amount, use it and throw it away. Hello, memory fragmentation. So that happened. He was like, that's it. I'm pre-allocating everything. I'm never going to dynamically allocate. I'm pre-allocating everything at the start. Hello, buffer overflow. So then he was like, that's it. I'm going to do both. You want to pre-allocate some things. I want to use dynamic allocation for other things. Hello, both problems at once. It was weird to watch him get so frustrated. And I'm like, this is known. These problems you're running into are known. All programmers run into them. You have to deal with it. But that's a whole other video. Anyway, And then the flip side, I mentioned, if you watch too much, you can easily get overwhelmed and you'll never get anything done because you're spending all your time going, oh no, this video came out and it's in a similar setting. Or, oh no, this video came out and it's also turn-based RPG. I need to play it. You'll never get anything done, especially now with so many games coming out. I think it's 700 or so a week. I forget. It's a lot. You're not going to be able to do this. You're just give it up. You cannot do this. My recommendation then to people who are watching this who are game devs or wanting to get into game dev is play enough games that you figure out what it is you like. You find your own style. You find your point of view, your POV. And this may take a while. And that's fine. I was in the industry for 13 years before I started making Fallout. So it took me almost a decade and a half to really come up with okay, I like games with reactivity, and I like games with multiple solutions, and I like games where you can make your own character, you're not handed one. That was my POV. Find that. I call it your happy place. Find your happy place and then live there. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Don't worry about you're missing out on the next big thing. You may be the next big thing. So don't worry too much, but do try to have a good foundation in what you've played. And I hope that answered your question. Amir Hussain, Magsoudi 388.